Okay, we're on the record now. The Board of Commissioners is in session. All three commissioners are present. We have a recording we need to play. Go ahead.
The purpose of this hearing is for the Board of Equalization, BOE, to provide taxpayers with an opportunity to appeal the assessed value placed on their property for taxing purposes. For each hearing, the appellant will be given 3 minutes to make their presentation, after which the appraiser will give a factual presentation on how the assessed value was established. Each appellant will then have a chance to provide a final 2-minute rebuttal. The board will then make a decision. Anyone wishing to give testimony will have to be sworn in. All motions made during these hearings will be made by the Board of Commissioners convened as the Board of Equalization. Pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63501A, only the property owner taxpayer or their legal counsel may appear before the Board of Equalization. You may, however, call witnesses to testify on your behalf within your allotted time frame. We are aware that some appellants may not be able to appear at their scheduled hearing due to our statutory time frame to hear appeals. However, the board does review and consider all documents and information provided when making our decisions. As set forth in Idaho Code 63502, the burden of proof falls to the taxpayer seeking relief to establish that the determination of the assessor is erroneous, including any determination of the assessed value. Otherwise, this board shall uphold the assessed value. It is important to note that if there is a reduction in your taxable value, it does not reduce resources to the governing entities, but in fact shifts the tax burden to other taxpayers in the district. Any adjustment made on your assessment will be in place for the current tax year only. Please understand, after the current tax year, the adjustment will be removed and your property value could change drastically if market conditions warrant it. If you are not satisfied with the BOE's decision, you will have an opportunity to appeal the decision to the Board of Tax Appeals or the District Court.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, before we get started, we'll need to have anybody that is wanting to testify before this board stand up and be sworn in.
Guess that's me.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Okay. First item on the agenda is, we don't have anything that we tabled, do we? No. Okay, we need David Andrus is first up. Go ahead.
My name's David Andrus. I'm with Colliers International, and we manage the property, but this is Brandon. He's the owner.
Yeah, Brandon Hanks, the owner of the Vault Ponderosa. So the property in question is the 2501 East State Avenue. As far as I know, the property was marketed for $9 million starting early 2025. I negotiated with the seller late last year or late 2025 to purchase it at $7.35 million. And so based on the market data I have, that the fair market value should be close to the 7.35 purchase price. It was a arm's length transaction with the seller, and I have a purchase and sale agreement at 7.35, the closing statement at 7.35 million, as well as an independent appraisal which was done during the purchase at the purchase price as well.
I know that they're looking at this on an income basis property. The projections they had on this property, they listed the annual income at around $550,000. We've been managing the property now for since early this year. What we're seeing based on this, maintenance costs are quite a bit higher than we are anticipating. The income on this property is not going to be anywhere close to that 550. We believe it's going to be considerably less than that, probably a little under 500,000 on this property. And I know that's how they were trying to base this. But as Brandon said, the property, did sit on the market for almost a year. He also, his mortgage company, they also ran their own pro forma on this, and I believe they thought this property was somewhere worth about $7.3 million.
Okay. Any questions?
Chair,
Go ahead.
what are the costs that weren't anticipated when you bought this?
Well, one of the major costs was the HVAC controls. That was managed under the previous owner, and the costs, I mean, those costs fell within the campus of their overhead for other properties they own. And so, using the same service that they use, I do have a bid here for to use the HVAC controls that they're using to, it will add $20,000 a year in operating costs.
Good. Any other questions? Okay. You have any questions? Commissioner, go ahead.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So if you use the cost basis, would you still hold with your analysis that it should be closer to the 7 million?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and you have an appraisal in your packet, do you know? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
And the appraisal was effective date January of this year, January 6th of this year.
Correct.
Right. And and you're suggesting that the county ought to use the valuation you purchased it at and not using an income approach.
Yes.
Yes.
So would you value it higher if you used an income approach?
To be honest with you, after looking at it, an income approach, I think that we found that they were going to be fairly close with what we're projecting the budget to be. It would be within a pretty close range to that, based on what we're seeing coming in with the first few months.
All right. Now, you're are you seeing other properties like this that are, that have to take quite a haircut when they sell it?
So we did look at several other properties that are very similar to this, that are currently being, they're on the market right now currently. I've got 3 here, and, they're ranging in value. One of them's pretty close to this one, 7.5 million, another 30 million. But, they're around a 7% cap rate. And that's what's out there right now, just other ones that we've found that are very similar to this. And that's an asking price. This one was the same thing, was that same asking, price in that range. There was just no interest in it to buy it at that range.
Now, you closed on it in February, was that it, this year?
Yes, February 13th.
But when did you enter into the purchase agreement?
I believe it was,
It's the end of November, December.
I want to say it was the end of October of October 28th of 25.
Yeah. And you are stating that you think that you're saying this was an arm's length transaction, and there was no distress or anything involved in it with the seller?
None that I know of. I mean, I don't know the seller.
Oh, I get that, but it didn't look like they were in bankruptcy or anything.
No.
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 Okay, well, I don't have any questions. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just clarification, because when I asked the question about the income approach, just to clarify after the chairman's question, the income approach, you would evaluate, you would stay close to the $7 million in evaluation as well?
Well, I mean, a range. I mean, at the 7 million would be on the low side of that for on an income approach.
Okay, but, okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bill Dunlap. I'm a commercial appraiser with Ada County. You have my packet in front of you there. We can just look at the first page. First thing I want to draw your attention to is in the lower left-hand corner. It shows the statutes and talks about that we have to assess the property at market value using market data, okay? So that's kind of the difference in when you have a sale price that comes in lower than an appraised value or our assessed value. Per statute, we have to use market data to come in our market value. So that's a basic difference right there between our value of 9 million originally. If you look at the bar graph, you can see the values over the last 5 years or so, and that there's a reduction from 2024 to 2025 of about $1 million, from 10 million to 9 million. And you can see that statistically also. In the narrative below that, it says that we're talking about the building, a little bit of the building characteristics. The Gemstone office building is located in North Meridian market area, next to other major employers and 2 blocks from the corner of Eagle and Pine. Just giving you an idea of, this is basically a prime location. The building is Class A quality, built in 2017, with over $1.6 million in tenant improvements since 2019. The next 2 paragraphs really go into the appraisal and the cap rate, which, as I go on, you're going to realize that the difference in their value and our value is based upon the capitalization rate. The rents, the vacancy, the expenses, the other factors that go into the income approach are basically very similar. It's the capitalization rate which really makes the difference. Anyways, it goes on here, the contract rents are in line with office market rents in this area of Meridian. A leased fee appraisal, that's very important because a leased fee appraisal isn't a fee appraisal. It's an appraisal based upon the actual rents that are currently being collected on the property. Not the market rents, or maybe not the market rents, they could be the same. So a lease fee appraisal was completed for the sale price of $7,350,000. The net operating income, basically just the net income after expenses and vacancy, et cetera, the net income stated in the appraisal is virtually the same as the net operating income used in the assessed value, which is about $550,000. There's only $5,000 difference between 551 and 546 in the 2 operating incomes. Then the last paragraph, however, the appraisal used an unsupported 7.5% cap rate to arrive at the sale price for the appraised value. It's totally unsupported, especially for a property this quality in this location. There's no evidence to show anything that high, even 7%. And we'll get into that a little bit more as I show the reports from TOK and Colliers. As reports, and then it goes on to say here, as reports published by commercial brokerage firms TOK and Colliers, the cap rate for this property type and location would be 6.1 to 6.5%, which renders a value no less than $8.5 million. If you flip to the second page, you can see the location, the location map. It's a lot that goes street to street between State and Pine in Meridian. It's about 2 blocks from the corner of Pine and Eagle. Across the street is Sensi, the very big manufacturer, and only a block away from Blue Cross. The next page, these are the actual listing that was published and online. And you can see the building here, and you can see the listing price. And as it says at the top, fully leased, Class A office investment opportunity. The next page, halfway down, you can see the sale price, $9 million, and you can see the actual in-place rents of $775,000. I make a note of that because our rents, in other words, the rents for the assessor's office, was about $150,000 lower than that. In other words, our market rents weren't as much as the actual rents. and it's showing occupancy at 100%. And then the 5 tenants that occupy the building. So this isn't a situation where, each office is rented out and it's an exclusive office rental or co-working, they call it. This is just straight 5 tenants in an office building, 100% occupancy. If you flip to the next page, the listing talks about the strong points of the property. It's a strong Class A multi-tenant office investment opportunity, 100% leased with stable tenancies, and renewals options in place. Premier quality building with professional and modern finishes and well-maintained and landscaped since 2017. You can jump down a couple more. Excellent visibility from Pine and accessibility from primary Treasure Valley Corridor, Eagle Road. And then the last one, next to major employers, which I mentioned, Sensi and Blue Cross. Flipping to page 6, you can see this is our income summary statement. This comes right out of our computer software, PTS, and it shows the calculations we used to come in at the original value of $9 million. So we're at $618,000, which once again is over $150,000 less than what the actuals on the listing is showing as the total rents collected, the potential gross income. It comes down to the vacancy and collection. We're at 5%, even though the building is 100% occupied. So that's another thing that's detracted. It's taken off of the potential gross income. Come down a little further and you'll see the total expenses are at 7%, which for this type of office building at triple net is market for expenses. And then below that, you see the cap rate of 6%, and we'll show how that's supported a little bit further here, in the presentation. The next page this is an actual snippet, an actual portion of the appraisal, page 7. And as it says, a rent roll is provided, been summarizing the following. So this is the actual rent roll that in the second to right column shows the current collected rents per square foot, $23, $25, $26, $21, $23. It shows an average of 23. And as the appraiser states, as indicated in the table above, the indicated average contract rent is $23 for the subject property. So we're really getting a sense that the rents collected for the property are basically market rents, because in the next page you'll see that's what we found in our rent survey. The last sentence says, based on the analysis within the income approach section of this report, the subject's blended contract rate is at or near current market leased rates. That's out of the appraisal. You flip to the next page, page 7. These are the rents that we found most applicable right now, currently, in the direct, very proximate neighborhood of the subject property. You can see under the lease rate column, they're all between $22 and $24 a square foot. So you can say 23. The reason why I bring all this up about 23 is because just showing that the contract rents, even though it's a lease fee appraisal, and the market rents are very, very similar. The page after that is showing the statistical data from this particular page is from Colliers. And you come down, 8 or 9 rows, and you see North Meridian come all the way over to the right. Once again, we're at $23.75 for being the gross direct rent. In other words, a full-service rent. So we're pretty much established that this $23, $24 is what the rent should be on this property. And that's, of course, what we have in our data. The next page shows a market snapshot through December 2025, so up until January 1st of this year, that the office cap rate is at 6.1%, and it says average Boise cap rate. That's the statistical market area for the Treasure Valley. Cap rate's extremely important once again. If you flip to the next page, that shows the third paragraph. It says cap rates in the Treasure Valley have held steady or compressed slightly in 2025, signaling stable market fundamentals and continued investor demand. Office cap rates remain flat at 6.1%. That's for last year. If you flip to the next page, page 12, once again, the direct asking rate, this is also from Colliers, is at $23.20 a square foot. Once again, supporting that rent rate. And then below that, the cap rate by quarter, now this goes out to this first quarter of this year is 6.4%. If you go back a quarter, it looks like 6.5. So you have one source at 6.1 and another source at 6.5. And then the last page, of course, shows the statute of how we are, how we have to use market data for assessment values. That all said, I'd like to kind of summarize that, once again, the rent is well established, vacancy is 5%, that's typical even a 100% occupied building. The 6.5% cap rate strongly supported. You use that net operating income, both the appraisal and we have based on market rents and market expenses and market vacancy, and you have a final value of $8.5 million. I'll get to this in a second, but our first offer to the owner was at $8.5 million. Now, we came down from the $9 million assessed value to $8.5 million. Our conclusion is that the sale price is not market value. This happens sometimes, as you well know. Sometimes the seller is motivated. In this particular case, we believe that the property was not on the market, exposed to the market for what is defined by the appraiser as the length of time it would take to sell the property at that appraised value. And in this particular case, the appraiser says, quote, that the marketing time of this property would be around 12 months. So, and according to the listing broker, in discussions with, the appraiser says, in discussions with the listing agent, Ms. Sydney Parks with TOK stated that the subject property was actively marketed for approximately 7 months, and there was good interest from prospective purchasers. And then she goes on to say that it was scheduled to close escrow on February 13th, 2026. So it appears the seller was motivated not to use the full marketing time to try and attain the listing price of $9 million. In the appraisal also, talking about the cap rates, the appraiser states that the cap rate is a rate falling towards the lower end to midpoint of the range is believed most prudent at 6.5%. So even the appraiser, even though he uses 7.5%, says the most prudent is 6.5%. Why the appraiser did that, we'd have to ask them, but it would seem as though, because it's a lease fee appraisal, that it was based upon the sale price of $7.35 million. When we offered the $8.5 million, just the last note, the response we got was that the owner felt it needed to be closer to $8 million. We realized that we could make one more adjustment besides the cap rate going up from 6% to 6.5%. We could make one more adjustment to drop it $1 square foot. We have to have this value we have, assessment value has to be supported. So we came down $1.50 a foot, and we made an offer at $8 million. And the response we got back was an offer at $7.5 million.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Go ahead.
So did I understand you correctly that you made an offer of 8.5 million?
That's correct. And the response we got back was that it needs to be closer to 8 million where we would get resolution, where we could get compromise. So we went back through all the data and we said, there's one more adjustment we can make and still justify the value and be at the low end of the market value range. We knocked another $1 off per square foot in the rent, below what we're showing at $23 to $22, but we could still justify it, and made it and came back with a counter offer of 8 million. And the response we received back was an offer at 7.5. We can't go any lower than at 8 million. So we're having that differential between 7.5 million between the owner's highest value and 8 million our lowest offer.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me see if I understand your position. A, you don't think that the previous owner held it on the market long enough to achieve the even $8 million.
That's correct.
So if he'd held it on the market another 3 or 4 months, you think your assertion is that if he would have held it on he or she, if the owners would have held it on the market, they were willing to give up, because they were listing it at 9 million, were they?
Yes, sir. You can see from that actual listing that I have in there, the third page, they had it listed at 9 million.
Yeah. And so they gave up a lot of money to sell it earlier.
Well, excuse me, sir, but of course, that's what,
8 months being on the market, and you say a couple more months, they could have achieved the market value, what you're saying is the market value?
excuse me, but first of all, even the owner in our communications was saying it was on the market for about 6+ months. In the listing agent said it's approximately 7 months. It's a 7 plus or minus months. The appraised value is always has also the amount of time and the market. It has to be on the market, the exposure time, in order to attain that value. So the the 9 million, of course, is a listing price. So, there obviously would be some negotiation, and that's one of the reasons why that we decided our first offer would drop from 9 million to 8.5 million. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, how much difference does that differentiation in the cap rate make in a dollar
Very,
amount?
very good question. Very good question. That at 8.5 million, the cap rate is at 6.5%. For us to drop down to 8 million, we had to reduce the price per square foot for the rent. This building is 35,000 square feet. For $1 a square foot, ends up being a lot of money, close to $500,000.
And so you reduce the proposed rent or the actual rent?
The actual rents and the market rents are $23 a foot. Okay, and in fact, we're seeing basically 23 to 24 a foot. When we looked at it, we said, well, you know what? We can come down to $22 a square foot based upon properties are all north of the 84 freeway. And nothing, even though just crossing that freeway in the north-south meridian, very similar properties, that we want to make sure that we're covering all our bases. So we can drop it $1 per square foot. And that's when we came back with an offer of 8 million. Final offer. We can't go any lower than that. Otherwise, we need to come to appeals.
Okay. And any questions? All right. Well, thank you. Did you want to do a rebuttal? You can if you don't want. If you don't, that's all right.
Do I need to come up here?
Yeah, come on up.
Just a couple of things. So, I did show there were several other properties that we show listed for sale right now, very similar buildings that are above the 7 cap rate. And then also, when you're trying to sell a property, you're doing your very best. I mean, that's what we do. We want to get the most for the person we're selling that for. So everything is always on the positive side. So we're as a brokerage firm that is trying to sell a property, we do our best to get the very most out of that property that we possibly can. So I mean, I can't tell you what TOK was doing. They're our competitor. We're both very similar in size. But when we were looking at this, even from an incomes perspective, on the sales price, there are other very similar properties that are above 7 cap rate being tried to sell right now. On the income side of it, just looking at the income, they're showing the income should be around $550,000. We don't think that that's correct either, just based on the limited numbers we've seen. We think that's going to be closer, a little under $500,000 for the year. So that also comes into play on the income side of it.
Okay. Does that cap rate, would the expenses have much to do with the cap rate?
Yes, I mean, as far as the way we look at it, the cap rate, the way we would look at it, would be based on the income of it. I mean,
The net income?
yes, but the net operating income, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have more questions. Any questions from the board? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, have anything you'd like to add before we start discussing this?
Thank you very much. Please remember that the sale price had to have a 7.5% cap rate. That 0.5% between 7 and 7, he was quoting 7%. That 0.5% is a lot. It translates into a big value change. So in the 7.35 million was based on a 7.5 cap rate, which we cannot find any support for in Meridian. Meridian is a very strong market, in some ways stronger than Boise. Some ways have stronger cap rates, lower cap rates. Remember, the higher the cap rate, the lower the value. You know, lower cap rates in Meridian, especially South Meridian, than the 7% that he's quoting. We couldn't find any support for that. We can't, in listings or otherwise, in this area.
Okay. I would have one question that just occurred to me, and that is, 'cause you mentioned several times in your presentation that it's right next to the Blue Cross buildings, right?
Blue Cross, right, it's only two lots down, right.
And they're moving,
Excuse me?
and they are moving.
Correct.
That should make a difference in the market value, wouldn't it? At least some difference, I don't know, but.
Well, that's perspective on the future. I can't really state that.
Exactly, but it's a lot of space that'll be coming up here. Some, I don't know who owns it, does Blue Cross own it? I don't even know.
Right, and of course, the question would be, how much impact would that space have on the total market, which we have no idea right now, and how well it's absorbed.
That's
And it's a very strong area.
Okay, I don't have any more, did you have any questions? You have any questions? All right, thank you, thank you. All right, well, we need to make a decision. Our assessor has agreed to lower the assessed value to $8 million, and the owner wants to maintain his position at 7.35. Is that correct? That's correct. So, what's the? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, was it 8 million or 8.5 that you said?
8 million. There's a lot of final ones.
Sorry to
Final
confuse
offer.
you. The final offer was 8 million.
Okay. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Any further discussion, or because it seems we have narrowed it down. Again, the assessor's office is at 8 million, and they're at 7.35 million. And it seems as one of the main bones of contention is the actual cap rate.
Correct.
Because it gives a higher cap rate at the lower value, and then it's questionable about the gross income, because you've lowered it a little bit to come up with the 8 million projected income. Okay, any discussion?
I would just say, I don't think that the appellant has presented enough evidence to overcome the assessor's determination.
Okay.
I would concur with that as well. Absent that, we have to stay with the assessor's evaluation, and then, of course, they can appeal it based on the options available.
Okay, so is there a motion then? Because, I mean, I'm somewhat persuaded by just the actual closing, and he closed it at 7.3 million, but then there's other factors could be taken into consideration. But with the assessor valuing it at 8 million, that does lower it quite a bit from the original 9.1 million. So is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, uphold the assessor's evaluation on parcel R3073810035 and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
So are you talking about the assessor's valuation at 8 million?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Wouldn't the motion be to modify, since the 9,100,000 was presented today?
Well, the motion would be to uphold the assessor's valuation of 8 million, because that's what they've concluded, correct? What you'd need to give us is, if that motion is to carry, what would be the new values?
We would stand by the 8 million because that was our final offer.
Oh, exactly. But what would be the new values on did you decrease the improved value or the lot value?
Totally improvement value.
Okay, so you'd keep the lot value at 1.4427, And what would you put the improvements at?
Improvements then would, 6,558,000,
58, 6,558, right?
correct?
So that's what our motion needs to be.
Yes, and well, and with total taxable value at 8 million, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we need to make.
Okay, so if you'd like to revise your motion,
I move to, that the Board of Equalization sitting as, the Board of Commissioners sitting as the Board of Equalization modify the value of parcel number R3073810035 to 6,558,000 and uphold the valuation of the property at 1,442,700.
or total taxable value.
For a total taxable value of 8 million, and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, you've heard the second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
did you have
I
something?
just want to verify that we both have the land value at 1,442,000, correct?
42,700, right?
700.
That's what's on the sheet.
Okay, well then, excuse me, that 700 makes a difference.
So what would the improved value be then?
1,442,700.
No, I mean, what would be the
Improvement value would then be 6,558, excuse me, 6,557,300. 6,557,300.
okay,
Okay,
for a total of 8 million, okay.
for a total of 8 million. Now, do we need to redo the motion, or is that
No,
clarified?
we just amended the motion, that's fine.
Okay.
Right, all right. All right, you heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Okay, now you can appeal this to the State Board of Tax Appeals if you like. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Kenneth Howell, Idaho Associates LLC. Is Kenneth Howell here? Oh, there you go. Come on up. Looks like you're going to be here for a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Notes. And hopefully, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope I can hear you as well. I've got hearing aids and I heard almost nothing sitting back there, so.
We'll ask the IT guy to adjust the microphone levels, or just ask the assessor's office to speak directly into the microphone for you.
Okay, this is my first appearance in front of this board. I've been in Boise for 50 years and developing property over the last 40 years. And I would say the fact I'm first here is a good sign that your system is working well. That, you know, there's a huge problem the assessors have with regard, I'm protesting 6 different apartment projects, so I'll speak about apartments. Yeah, and they've got, they have to do it quickly and they have to do it within the framework of what's allowed, and there's, I know, formulas that are built into the computer system that they use. And what I have done for decades is look every year at the assessments. I evaluate those assessments using very much the same formula that the assessors use. The difference is I put in the actual data that the properties have experienced. And there's about 25 properties in total that we manage and I've developed, and this year, 6 didn't meet the standards, and so that's why I'm here. I've spent some time with Ron negotiating, and we just haven't been able to agree, and that's fine. That's part of his job. He needs to hold the line. Okay. Now, the other thing I didn't realize is that apparently you make decisions like when I'm done talking. Is that right?
You can.
Well, I hope you don't, because I just presented a much simpler take on this whole 6 different properties. Spent quite a few days working. Last week, Ron sent me his exact evaluation, property by property, using his formula and using what he thought was the assessment. So I took that information and I carefully matched it up with each one of the properties. I used not only the most current year, but I used the 5-year average of data that we keep. And of course, one of your questions, certainly, if not asked directly, is going to be, gee, how valid is that data? Well, that data comes directly from our individual tax returns done by our CPA. And so the data that you see matches that information. And that gives rise to differences. And you can look very carefully, you can see what the differences are. Are they on the rents? Are they on the vacancy? Are they on reserve for maintenance? It's all spelled out. And again, this is all data-driven, and it's important to look at the data. It's important to look also at what I submitted before, which was a narrative with regard to each property, what makes each property unique, one from the next. And believe me, they are. I have, I suppose at this point, called it lectured my leasing agents time after time about apartments. And the fact is, there are no two alike. I don't care if they have the same floor plan, they were built at the same time. Once they age, in particular, and all the properties that I've submitted are more than 40 years old. One's 125 years old, another one's 115 years old. So they're all very unique. And, if you want to figure out what the rent is, you cannot go to Amazon and look it up. It's just to be decided. So, if you wish, I can take the time to address each property. I've done that, I think, pretty carefully in the paperwork. And again, there's a lot of information here, and I just would encourage you to look carefully at one aspect, which is again the narrative, which has a discussion of each property's uniqueness, and look at the comparison, Ron's assessment, his market valuation, and how that compares with my assessment given the individual properties.
Okay, we'll take each property.
There's also in your packet, 10 or 11 page summary that's written. And again, I'm not sure I can add much to what you are able to look at yourself.
Okay, well, we'll take each property individually, and then we'll have our assessor, you give your information, and then we'll have the assessor give their report, and then we'll compare the two. Okay?
Okay,
Okay, did I speak loud enough for you?
all right.
I'm sorry. All right. So go ahead on this particular property, the Idna Hotel, and we've got the information
Okay,
here.
just to verify what I heard, we're done for today. You will look, you'll address it, and make a decision later. Is that what I heard?
No, no, that's not what you heard. What you heard is, give us the information on this property, the Idaho Hotel, then we'll take our assessor's evaluation, and if you want to do a rebuttal, you can do that. We'll take each property individually.
Fine.
Okay, all right. So, and we have your documentation, so you have them all on all the properties here, right, your evaluation?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Did you have anything else you'd like to add to this? Now, you're suggesting that the valuation should revert back to a 2021 level? You're suggesting that the valuation on the Idaho property should revert back to the 2021 level?
No, no, no. No, not at all. I am presenting 5 years' worth of data. What I am saying, and this is really an important point, is that costs fluctuate year by year.
Right.
And sometimes it's easy to identify, gee, this happened this year, and we can normalize. And that's what I submitted earlier for the record, was taking a look at the most current year and how that varied from the norm. What I decided to do when I received Ron's evaluation, his assessment, which gave me very specific information regarding the rents, the vacancy, the expenses, and finally, a operating income that gets capitalized. And by the way, we don't disagree much at all on the cap rate, which is really good news for everybody because that's often never, never land, as you know.
Right.
Where we disagree is some in rents, mostly in operating costs, maintenance costs in particular, and smaller treatments of, rent discounts and collection costs. Vacancy rates are different in many respects too. So why do I have 21 data there and 22, 23, 24, and 25? To even out the flow. What does an investor want? He wants to be able to predict accurately what the future cash flow is going to be. 1 year is a small example of the total. That's why I took averages over 5 years in the most recent submittals.
Okay.
So, all right, we can talk now about the Idaho if you wish.
Well, yeah, that's what we're doing right now. Your expected full market value is 5.7 million, correct?
I've got 6 of them here. Let me find the Idaho. Oh, no. Well, my collator put 6 of the same ones together.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, on the paper you handed us, you put taxpayers' opinion of full market value, $5,704,580. Does that sound right?
I've got something else that can give me the information I need. Well, mistakes happen.
Okay, Mr. Howe, how about while you're looking through it, we'll have Ron give us his report, and then
Sure.
if you want, then you can stay right there if you want to. Go ahead, Ron.
Or you could use, if you need to sit and look through stuff, you can sit at this table in the front here.
Yeah, that might be handier.
Because that table has a microphone too, so you could stay there if you'd like.
Just whatever's best for you.
If you would look in your folder for Idaho, because each of you has a different property, probably.
Right.
Yes.
You have it?
No, I have all of them the same. I have all I have 5 copies of the same thing.
Okay, so if you could share then 2 copies with your seatmates and give me one.
It's not the Eisenhower, the one I have is not the Eisenhower.
I've got all the different ones, I think. Thanks for, oh, that's from the county.
Okay.
These sheets here, mine are all exactly the same. Are yours all exactly the same?
Yeah, they are.
This is the one I have, and I have 5 copies of the same
Are they
thing.
all Park Center? Or are they different?
Yeah, they're all Park Center.
Okay.
These are all Park Center.
Mine seem to be all different.
What's the number on the top left, or the name on the top left corner?
Quail Park
Okay.
and Quail Park and Quail Park. They're all Quail Park.
Yeah. So obviously that's a mistake. We have 6 of the same kind together and not 6 of each.
Okay. Yeah,
Because mine are all the same too.
mine are all Quail Park. So,
You want to take them all back and distribute them?
Just give me all but one. Keep one.
we'll keep the one because these are all Quail Park. Yours are all different?
Okay.
I believe they're all Quail Park, yeah.
You give one each to your seatmates.
Yeah, they're all Quail Park.
Here's Park Center.
Okay.
Park Center.
I have Park Center. That's the one I do.
I don't have Park Center. Do you want to give me Park Center?
Geez, let me get the others.
Okay. I have Quail Park.
I've got the Eidenhaw.
And you've got the Idaho. You have all, are they all the same?
Yeah.
Give me the
There's-
Idaho then. There's the Idaho. Okay, we now have the Idaho.
You need Eisenhower.
No, I had all the Eidenhaw, so now they've got it too. So we've,
Here's Magnolia.
Which one's this one? Oh, Magnolia, okay. All right, we're now talking about the Idaho. We've got your spreadsheet here, and this is on the actual income and expenses for the year.
Parkland Apartments.
This is Park Lane. Okay. Yeah, I don't, all right. Idaho Apartments.
Okay, you should have 6 separate properties.
Okay.
Shout out,
I have 5.
I have Idaho, I have Idaho Building, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, I've got 6. 6 separate ones.
I have 5.
Idaho,
let me look and see which one's missing.
do you need the Quill one? Do you have that one? That's one I had a bunch of them.
Yeah, this is the one I didn't have, I think.
Oh, correct, okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Idaho Apartments. You want to finish off your report, and then we'll hear from our assessor.
yeah, just summarize your specific arguments on Eidenhaw. If you could give us the overview on Eidenhaw.
I'll be right there. Okay. Yeah, so the issue at the Idaho is, first of all, let me give you the layout, 53 apartments, and then the balance of the property is retail on the main floor and also in the basement. I bought it in 1999, converted it from the hotel to apartments. And I also placed it into the Section 42 tax credit program. And that program is sunsetting, but it's right now both tax credit and market rate. And we had an issue with the Boise City Ada County Housing in '25. They were frustrated over both the handicap lift and the elevator, and so they demanded all of the Section 8 tenants move out. And they did last August. And so that created a lot of vacancy, which is now beginning to be recovered. And but that was a one-time event that made it unique. Operating costs there just simply don't fit into the equation of being 24% of the estimated gross income. And that's Ron's formula that I guess he's stuck with for the most part. Occasionally he can raise it up, I think up to higher than 24%, but, and by the way, these expenses are those without real estate taxes. So your sheet will show you the exact differences that we have between rents, vacancy, expenses, and operating income. And then we capitalize that at the same amount, same cap rate. You'll notice that Ron does not allow any reserve for maintenance in his analysis, his assessment, which is, I don't know why.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, well, there's much more, but it's all written down.
All right, good enough. All right, go ahead, Ron.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is, can you hear me all right? Sorry.
Yeah.
My name is Ron DeRoost, Commercial Appraiser with the Ada County Assessor's Office. The subject property is the Idaho Building, which is a mixed-use 53-unit apartments/retail building located on the northeast corner of 10th and Main in downtown Boise. It's kind of an iconic building, so I'm sure you're familiar with it. Page 2 is a map, just in case, for your reference. The apartment portion of the Idaho has been a Section 42 low-income housing tax credit property since 1999. At the end of 2025, it started transitioning into market rate property. Normally, Section 42 apartments are valued based on their actual financials per Idaho state statute and state tax commission rules. In order to be valued this way, each property owner must submit their financials to the state tax commission by April 1st of each year. The financials are then forwarded to the assessor's office to calculate the valuations. If the property owner does not comply with providing their financials by April 1st, properties are required to be valued at market value for the year. Even though this property is no longer officially in Section 42 program, we will consider their financials during the transition period on a case-by-case basis as long as they are provided by the deadline. Even though the financials were not provided by the deadline, consideration was still given that the property was in transition when valuation was determined. This included using expenses and a cap rate that are more indicative of a Section 42 property, which resulted in an assessed value much lower than true market rate for the property. Page 3 is my income summary that shows a potential gross income of $963,744. I then subtracted the market vacancy rate of 5%, to arrive at effective gross income of $915,557. Expenses, not including taxes at 40%, were subtracted to get a net operating income of $549,344, divided by the tax-loaded cap rate of 7.42%, shows an indicated value of $7,403,423, from which we subtract $53,000 in personal property to get a total value of real estate equaling $7,350,400 rounded. I want to make it clear that the property was assessed lower than true market value due to it being in transition from Section 42. Of the 53 apartments, 16 of them are rented to tenants who qualify for income-restricted rent. Only 4 of the 16 income-restricted units pay rent lower than what I'm using in my income approach. Page 4 shows 3 different models. Model labeled assessed is the exact model and data used for the 2026 assessment. The model labeled market uses true market-based figures and would represent the assessment if the property weren't in Section 42 transition. The rent values for the apartments and retail space used are from the appellant's rent rolls. You should also note that a true market expense ratio and cap rate are used in this model. The third model is a hybrid model. This model uses the market rents for the 37 market rate apartments and the actual rents from the 16 restricted units. It also uses the actual income from the retail/office space that the appellant provided to me. Further, this model uses the actual vacancy of 21% and a 40% expense ratio, both of which are considerably higher than market rate. The cap rate used is 6.25%, which is considered a blended cap rate since it's a mixed rate or mixed-use property. Even with the extraordinarily high vacancy and expenses in the hybrid model, the end value is still higher than the current assessed value. I have included market support for cap rates and vacancy rates on page 5 and 6. You will notice that the cap rate used is higher than the market, and that's due because it's being a mixed-use property, because different property types have different cap rates. We have to blend the cap rates. And as well, it's been a Section 42 property that's transitioning. I speak with the appellant just about every year. He rarely files an appeal on this property because it's historically been Section 42, and the value is set by state statute. So we'll talk, and generally we'll come to an agreement and be done. He did file a formal appeal last year, but that was due to an income discrepancy related to the Boise City and Ada County Housing Authority, which we made an adjustment, and he withdrew the appeal last year. The appellant mentioned the expense data that he uses and the income data he uses is for the tax returns. Tax return data is not the same data that's used for appraisal purposes. Data for IRS purposes is just not the same. A lot of times the expenses are quite a bit higher. A lot of the expenses in his documentation are also would be considered capital expenditures, not operating expenses. This particular property, most of the properties that we'll talk about today are using a 24% expense ratio. This particular property is not. I've got it set at 40% because it's Section 42 transitioning property. And the reserves are actually included in the expense ratio. It's not a separate number. So the 40% expense ratio does include money for reserves. And based on the data provided by the appellant and the market, I feel the current assessment is fair and equitable.
Now, you indicated that you do the appraisal based on the statutory requirement.
When it's in Section 42 status, yes. This is in transition, so it doesn't technically fall in that rule any longer.
Is it higher or lower?
It's going to come in higher. So if you look at the hybrid model on page 4, that is basically the valuation based on the actual income and expenses both on the multifamily side and the retail side, using his higher than market vacancy, using a 40% expense ratio, which is more indicative of a Section 42 property. Even though it's in transition, we're still giving them a little bit extra on the expense side. And even that valuation comes in higher than the current assessed value.
Okay. So you're sticking with your original valuation of 7.35?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. And you haven't made any offers or anything to change it?
No, sir. I looked at this property and all the properties a lot of different ways, and unfortunately, I just don't see the data to support a reduction.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Ron, could you just summarize the difference of opinions between you and the appellant?
This particular property is kind of unique, but ultimately, I think 99% of our differences are going to be in expenses. What he has for expenses on his properties, not all of them are going to be considered operating expenses. And an investor looking at these properties to purchase them are going to look at that data, and they're going to start scratching out the ones that are capital expenditures and look more at the actual operating expenses, and then compare that with what else is being seen in the market, what other properties are paying for expenses, and when they're underwriting that deal to see if it's a good deal or not. So I understand where he's coming from on an operating standpoint as a business owner and the expenses that he's putting out, but the market doesn't recognize a lot of those expenses when you're talking about purchasing a property.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do you have other similar buildings on your desk that you've reviewed? What's your experience in these really old, 100-year-old downtown type of buildings?
Honestly, our appeals this year were very, very light. I did have one last year, oh shoot, I can't think of it. It's on 10th and Main. Similar building where it's got a mix of retail, apartments, and office space. And we ended up making an adjustment at the BTA level last year. But even then, the expense ratio was pretty much right in line with the 24% that the market's supporting. And that's an old building as well with similar issues. Now, this building here, I think, is unique in that it was Section 42. And Section 42 properties are notorious for having the highest expense ratio of all apartment buildings in Ada County. And that's why it's much higher than what we'd see in the regular market. And we're still, even though only 16 of the 37 units are Section 42, we're providing that 40% expense ratio for the entire project.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, mine, because the expense, it looks to me like one of the major differences between yours and his, because his is like 57% as opposed to 40%. So what are the kinds of expenses you're talking about that he lists that you don't, that don't qualify?
Well, let me see here. So for instance, on the income and expense statement that he sent me, if you look at the elevator repair and maintenance expense, in 2021, it was $1,900, then the next year, $2,578, and then the next year, $12,025, and then the next 2024 was $11,470, and then in 2025, it was $62,240. We can't just take those five numbers and average them and call that's what the dollar amount is, because that $62,000 is clearly a repair that would be considered a capital expenditure, not normal operating. So normally what we would see, specifically with elevator maintenance, would be more of like a subscription service that they'd, that a property owner would have, it's a standard X number of dollars per year that they pay for a service contract, essentially. Let me see what else we got here. Floor covering is another one. You've got, in 2021, it was just under 10,000, then 21,000, then 13,000, then 10,000, and then in 2025, it was almost 20,000. Now, I'm assuming that the floor covering is probably going to be because he had a lot of vacancy from the Section 42 tenants moving out, and they're doing remodels. A lot of that is not going to be considered a normal operating expense because you're not going to have $20,000 in carpet and flooring every single year. So we've got to figure that kind of stuff out. There was, let's see, legal expenses. That's another one. In 2021, there was 0, then 1904 in 2022, 2023 was 2405, and then in 24 it was almost $30,000, and then in 2025 looks like $24,000. Again, I think that was probably related to the Boise City, Ada County Housing Authority stuff that he was going through. But that's not a typical operating expense that an investor is going to see that and say, well, I'm not going to have that, so that's not going to be included in my calculations. Or they'll have a much smaller number.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So what you're saying is the 40% that you gave him was maybe even giving him the benefit of the doubt on some of the things you're talking about.
Yes, it was very generous.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right,
Do I get a chance to speak again?
sure, go ahead.
Actually, I'm a bit handicapped because one of you has an Idaho presentation that I'd like to have back. The next one.
You got 6 Idaho's?
Oh,
I got one.
this one here.
Before I look at the numbers, Ron did a fabulous job of making the case for me, by the way. Thank you. Because Ron's assumption is that when an investor buys property, they only look at the expenses that can be expensed on the tax return for that year. They don't look, for example, apparently whether the roof needs to be replaced or not, which is generally a capital expense. Really, what investors look at is what cash am I going to receive over time for this property? And it's very difficult to look at 1 year and make that prediction, which is exactly why I took the average for 5 years. Ron showed various ups and downs over 5 years. That's not what I used for my assessment. I used the average of 5 years. So that took those into account. That took the expenses, which were deductible by the IRS. Now, capital expenses affect cash, maybe even more than the day-to-day expenses, because they're big events. And naturally, an investor's going to look at those as well. That's why we have a reserve for maintenance, deducted from the expenses to account for that. So, I would ask that you do not make a final decision today on any of this because there really is a lot to compare, and I think this is the most important sheet to do so. Because in the case of the Idaho, it shows Ron's modified assessment against two things. One is 25, and one is the 5-year average. And I put more weight on the 5-year average than I do, even though does that mean I'm done forever, or just for now?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, if you want to wrap it up, that'd be good.
Okay. So will we now go to another property?
No, we're gonna make a decision on this property, and then we'll move on
All
to
right.
another one. Okay? Is there any discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just for staff again. So when because this information that he just gave us, did you just get it too? Or have you kind of analyzed it in the same kind of a concept of five? Have you analyzed it similarly in your hybrid?
So I didn't get a copy of what he provided you guys, but he did provide me his income and expense statement that's probably going to be very similar to what he's already given me, but
I guess that's where I was going. The similarities in your analysis are not majorly different than what he just presented, I guess, in your considerations. Like I said, with the expenses, when you gave the 40%, you were generous in the 40% in your calculations based on what you just described, correct?
yes. So like on his sheet, he's listing almost a 70% expense ratio
Correct.
versus 40%. And that's even with a regular Section 42 property that's in the program right now, we don't see that kind of expense ratio. Generally speaking, the State Tax Commission recommends capping expense rates at about $5,000 per unit. I tend to go a little higher than that because I think their number might be a little low. But to give you an idea, this particular property, as assessed, is at $5,308 per unit for expenses. So I'm already over what the State Tax Commission recommends, and it's probably fine. The hybrid model that I used there, because the rents that he's actually getting are higher than what I'm assessing at, it causes that 40% expense ratio to be higher because, not a higher percentage-wise, but the number is higher because the income is higher. And that comes in at $6,314 per unit expenses on the hybrid model. That's still, even the hybrid model is a little bit higher than what I'm currently assessing at, so.
I guess that's where I was going next. Even using your hybrid model, you've even gone lower than that in your actual assessment. So I think you've given adequate consideration for all the variables, I guess is my real question.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
I think based on what we've had the discussion, especially based on the questions that I just asked, I think the evaluations that were made were reasonable and like we're required to do, go with the assessor absent any major difference that we've identified. And so I would go with the assessed valuation.
Are you making a motion?
So I move that the Board of Equalization, Board of Commissioners meeting is the Board of Equalization. Where's my motion here? Uphold evaluation of the assessors on parcel number R10130000011, and authorize the chairman to sign the documents on behalf of the board. And again, with the understanding that this could be further discussed in an appeal process if necessary.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second that, and just to echo Commissioner Daley's comments, based on the sheer volume of appeals we get, this is kind of a very quick expedited appeal process. You know, we kind of go just based on what's presented at the hearing. For a more expansive appeal with experts and all that, that would be the next level, the Board of Tax Appeals. I'm assuming you probably haven't been there because you haven't had any appeals in the past, but that's what more people would consider a formal appeal with a lot of time made to the decisions. Unfortunately, we can only take so much time, and largely based on what, you know, is presented today, that's how we're making our decision. So, again, I'll second that motion with regards to the Idaho.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. You can appeal this to the Board of Tax Appeals, if you like. Okay, moving on. We're going to next take up Parks. W.E. Pierce Building LLC. At the Pierce Building. Yep. So go ahead. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Howell. The assessor is suggesting that the valuation is 15,462,000, and you're suggesting that the valuation is 10,707,000. You might want to give us any differences that you see with the assessor's valuation, and then we'll have the assessor give us their notice.
You know, I just heard Commissioner Davidson suggest something that may be worthwhile for everybody. I don't know that at this verbal hearing, I'm going to be able to convince you of anything other than what Ron tells you. And maybe we should just save some time, just say, hey, we don't agree.
Well, under Idaho law, the presumption is the assessor is correct, and you have to establish that he's not correct.
Well,
Under Idaho law, that's what we are required to do.
what we have is principally a difference over expenses. And so my point here is that those differences are common to each of these appeals.
Okay.
And now you may differ
Well, and
on others.
and the point there, by the way, is if you appeal this to the Board of Tax Appeals, you have more time to make your case than you have here. And you can make your case there. It's in a longer period of time, and our staff would be there to present it as well. But you'll have more time to make your case, and they take a little more time to do it as well.
Yeah, and
So if you
and
want,
I presume that, I mean, I make this case based on data.
Sure.
And I spent a lot of time assembling data, and it is necessary for the reviewers to really look and understand. It's awfully difficult to do so in just,
a short period of time. We
yeah.
understand
So,
that. We understand
anyway, I'm certainly willing to go forth. I mean, I have all day, if you have all day, and
Well, the point is, if you're going to make the same kind of case you made before, and we are actually required by law to accept the assessor's opinion unless you can establish something that was wrong with their numbers. And it seems like your argument is with how you calculate your expenses. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Ron's position is that an expense is not an expense. You have expenses somehow that are routine and occur frequently, and then you have expenses that are not routine and occur from time to time.
The capital expenditures, you're talking about the capital expenses.
Yeah, call them what you wish. Some would be capital, some might be even a large expense that's, according to the IRS, expensible in that year. But an investor, and I disagree with what Ron says about appraisers that ignore some expenses. No, they don't. Cash is cash. I mean, if you're buying whatever you're buying for income property, you don't want to look at some of the expenses, but not all of them.
Well, I think what he's talking about there, in fact, he even made reference to the fact that a roof isn't going to need to be replaced every year, maybe every 20 years or maybe 30 years. And so it needs to be capitalized over a period of time. Isn't that not what you're talking about? And that is the main difference. If I'm looking as an investor and I see an expense, a roof, I'm going to say, well, I'm not going to have to do that next year. Isn't that what you're talking about?
We're, I think, saying the same thing, that if there is a big capital expense like a roof, you don't take that every year, you don't take it every 5 years. But you have to absorb that cost, period. It occurs over time.
Well, that's a capital expense and that's to be amortized. Isn't that how expenses are, how those kind of capital expenses are to be done typically, is amortized?
Yes, and in the expense ratio, we do have reserves for capital expenditures at about 350 a unit, which I don't think we disagree on that figure at all. It's just that he wants to have the expenses plus 350 a unit plus the capital expenditures, and you're double dipping at that point. You can't put your capital expenditures in there and use it as an expense, get the extra 350 per unit reserves.
Excuse me, but what Ron just said isn't correct, because of course, we do follow the IRS rules. We capitalize costs that are necessary to capitalize, and we expense those that we're able to expense. So it's not like we're taking the roof and trying to expense it in a year or whatever. So anyway, we can carry on, but it seems like we might be at a difference here that may not be quickly resolved.
Okay, and you may have a better shot at it with the Board of Tax Appeals, is that, you may have a better shot at it with the Board of Tax Appeals, that's what you're saying? Or more time?
I don't wish to say that, but based on the analysis of the Idaho, I don't think the others are going to be much different.
Well, this one's in a bigger spread, you're asking to move this one back to 21 levels again. And I don't know if that's the more expenses or what is it? We can go through each one of them individually, but if the same process is going to occur, it might.
Mr. Chair, I would suggest you just give us your short, since it's, we'll go through the process just for the record, but just give us your quickest arguments, and we'll ask that the assessor give his quickest arguments, and then for the record, we just want to run through it individually.
Okay. All right.
Did you have any more arguments on this current property, or are you ready to hear the assessor?
On the Idaho building, it's the current property.
On the Pierce Building.
The Idaho building, what is it?
On ours, it says Idaho. On your sheet that you passed out, it says Idaho Building.
Yeah, that's with the parcel number.
280 North 8th Street.
Yeah, that's
Are-
the Idaho building.
If you're done with your arguments there, we'll hear the assessor, and then we'll make a decision. We'll go through them real quick for your sake.
Okay, go ahead on the Idaho Building, the one that we have right now. It's called, you got it on the schedule as the Pierce Building.
Yeah, this is considered the Idaho building. Again, my name is Ron DeRoost, commercial appraiser for the Ada County Assessor's Office. The Idaho building is a mixed-use 50-unit apartment building with retail and office located on the southeast corner of 8th Street and Bannock in downtown Boise. Page 2 is a map for your reference. The property owner did appeal this property in 2025 and received an adjustment. Page 3 shows my income summary. I won't go through all those numbers. As you know, our CAMA system is pretty antiquated, and it doesn't really handle mixed-use properties very well. Because of each property type or segment is valued a little differently, I created a spreadsheet to double-check the assessment. You can see this on page 4. The section labeled assessed includes the data used in the current assessment. The hybrid model values each segment separately using market factors common to each segment. When this is done, the value came in about $780,000 higher than the current assessment. And then the third model is labeled actual rents plus 30% expenses and 10% vacancy. This model uses the actual apartment rents provided by the appellant, which are higher than the assessed value rents, plus a 30% expense ratio and a 10% apartment vacancy, which is, both of those again are higher than what the market sees. You will notice that even this model derives a value higher than the current assessment. Again, 5 and 6 are the market support for cap rates and vacancy figures. The appellant did mention some condition issues in his appeal. I requested and was granted an inspection of the property. The inspection confirmed the quality and condition of the property as assessed. The main mixed-use building is in good condition. The parking garage adjacent to it on the same parcel does have some deferred maintenance and signs of vandalism. As previously mentioned, the appellant is, for appraisal purposes, is using capital expenditures in his expenses, which is not typical in appraisal. That's for IRS purposes. And that's basically overinflating his expense ratio. This is most likely done, again, for the IRS or some other purpose. The market generally recognizes an expense ratio of 24%, not including taxes. Again, I've looked at this property several different ways, and I just can't find the data to support a lower valuation. I feel that the current assessment is accurate, fair, and equitable with similar properties.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just to review what we've done before, the major discrepancies are similar to what we discussed in the previous property. And then, again, giving the benefit of the doubt, it appears you've done the same thing. The hybrid is higher than what you actually assessed, which then gives the indication that you've given consideration to some of his presentation as well, even in the evaluation, correct?
Yes, but the hybrid is actually more of a market rate
Right.
model. The one that gives the most consideration to the appellant is actually the actual rents plus 30% expense model up in the upper right-hand corner.
Right.
That one is very, very, I mean, I don't know if I could get any closer to, value in the property. And that's like an as-is value, which, of course, we're supposed to value similar to fee simple, not as-is. So, but even that value is still $206,000 higher than the current assessment.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's where I was going next as well. Your presentation has given an adequate presentation for my comfort level, at least, that you've given full consideration for all the variables that we're talking about. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm comfortable with the assessor's evaluation.
Okay, I just have one question, and then I'll accept the motion, and that is, you suggested that the 25, there was an adjustment made to the assessment?
Yes.
What was the adjustment?
Let me see here. Again, in 2025, we had differences in opinion on expenses, but I did make an adjustment in 2025 due to expenses at that time. And I should also note that apartment buildings that are 20 units and over all got reappraised this year. So there's no trending for this year. It's all going to be fresh data for rents and everything. There's no trending figures in there, essentially.
So you went from 15 million in 24 to 14.7 million in 25? That was a reflection of the expenses?
Yes, sir.
And so you put it back up at 15.4 this year? Okay. All right, so you're ready to make a motion?
I am, unless somebody else.
Go for it.
I move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, uphold the assessor's evaluation on property R1013002900 and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board. Again, this is available for discussion at a higher level if you appeal it.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, you've heard. Oh,
Call the vote, call the vote.
all right, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Have your attention.
Aye.
Aye.
May I have your attention, please? There has been a fire emergency reported in the building.
Record. All right, we're on the record. We had a little fire escape for a minute, but now we're back on the record. We're going to take up where we left off. The last item we had on the agenda was the W.E. Pierce Building. Now we're taking up Park Apartment with two separate RSs. Go ahead. He's not here, so.
For the record, he consented for us to finish this without him present.
Okay, so property in question is Park Center Apartments. The property has appealed, property owner has appealed the value several years, 21, 22, 23, and received adjustments each of those years. That was based on the property trending higher than what the market would suggest. Last year, it was due to, he appealed again last year due to some expenses. We did make an adjustment on expenses. The expense ratio on this particular property is a little bit higher at 27% than what market is. Due to the way it's constructed, he does have some additional expenses that are ongoing for maintenance on this property. But even with that, the current assessed value is fair and equitable and should be upheld.
So he didn't make any adjustments,
No,
and you're not recommending any adjustments?
no, sir.
Okay, I accept a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to uphold, I move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, uphold the assessor's valuation on parcel number R15787000012 and R4823120050, both known as Park Center Apartment LP, and authorize the chair to sign the document on behalf of the board.
I second the motion.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, well, next have,
Do we want it, since they're done talking, you want to just head to them?
I guess we could.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll move to change the order of the agenda to take up parcels S0409336330 and S040934, S0409347002, Republic Storage LLC.
I second the motion.
Okay, you've heard the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, that's up. So, we have the owner here. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we will do 0409336330.
Mr. Chairman, to save time, can we do them both together? The paper in front of you puts them together too, because the last time I was here, we kind of consolidated the parcels and they were basically the same thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You ready for me?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Moyle, thanks for the interesting day, by the way. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Us bald guys don't handle the heat without a hat. Anyways, Mike Moyle, we're talking about some storage units here, and we've been before the board several times with these in the past. We've been to district court twice before. Both times we were able to settle in district court. And it's my understanding we're in district court now, but let me explain to you why I don't know everything that's going on. In December of this year, one of our partners in the storage units passed away. So right now, there's a lot of changes with the storage units, and we're in the process of trying to purchase out his share of the storage units. I apologized to Craig. I had told him I'd try to get back with him as soon as I knew more this week, but we still haven't got that price finalized. And once that's done, then I will have all the information to be able to do an even better job at this, but I don't have it right now, but we are close. I can assure you the number we're looking at, though, is a little bit lower than what we're asking you to adjust the number down to today. If you look at the top of the page of the first thing I gave you, you'll see that the red is what the assessor says it's worth. The green is what I think it's worth, and the difference is on the right. And let me explain to you why I think that's the case. I'm not adding any information. What you see before you is me last night trying to put together what Craig sent me yesterday and respond to those. And I think there's 3 problems with the assessor's numbers that I want to focus on. The first one is the rent growth assumption of 10+%. The market is showing a negative 2+%, 2.2% right now. Those are the numbers that are going on, actually nationally also. You're seeing a decrease there, and I'll explain more in a minute why I think it's even more so in Star. The numbers that the assessor uses in the expense ratio is 39%. His own study in his old guidebook says that the 5-year average is more like 26.3%, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And he uses the cap rate on Star 1 of 5.75 and on Star 2 is 6%. If you look at the Pacific Northwest average, the cap rates on storage units like ours are about 6.6. That's important. That cap rate has a lot to do with the value. Let's talk about the rent growth assumption, number 1. The assessor says there's a 10% rent growth trend in 26. If you look at the national numbers, it's a negative 2.2. If you look nationally, 76% of large cities are recording rental declines. If you look at the assessor's own rent survey for the most popular storage facilities, units of 10 by 10, 10 by 15, and 10 by 20, they're either flat or declining in Ada County. That's their own stuff. The one thing that's different about this Star facility that was not taken effect, and I don't know that the assessor even knew about it, is if you go out to Highway 16 and State Street where those 2 facilities sit, they sit on the northwest corner. This year you had one that you can almost throw a rock to, Eagle Lux, which is a big, fancy new facility that just opened on 16 and State. It's on the north side. On the southeast side, you have a new one. That one is, what is it, Valor, I think? There's a Falcon, excuse me, it's Falcon that's right there. And then if you take 16 to the very next stoplight and turn right, you have, I think it's going to be the biggest one in the state, U-Haul facility. Go watch that thing going up. 2 4-story buildings, outdoor storage, covered store. It's huge. And right across the street from them, you have a brand new one that just opened. And that one is, I can't remember the name, storage, I don't remember what it's called, another storage facility. I should go by and get a picture of the name. My point being is the market is oversold. Add to that the one that's next to us on Plummer Road, the 2 that are on Star Road, the one that are on Lansing, and the one on Duff. Our occupancy rates are going to go down, and our rents are going to have to go down to compete with all these new units that have just come in there. So I think it's important, and I don't think the assessor knew or was cognizant, maybe he was, of all those new facilities that are coming along. They are huge, and they're big facilities. Go look at them, and you'll know one of the reasons why those who are trying to find a value for this right now are going, this isn't good because of all the new facilities that are online now or coming online. Let's talk about the expense ratio. If you use the book that they use in their report that you all have, they use the number of 39% for the last 3 years, but their own report suggests that 3-year average should be more like 26.34. That's important because that lowers the rate of those facilities. It helps lower the rate. The next thing that we need to talk about is the cap rate. The cap rate's too low. Storage facilities, especially in areas like ours where there is going to be overproduction, those values, those cap rates they're going to go up. They're going to have to go up because the competition is going to force vacancy rates higher, and the competition is going to force the rents to go back down. The next one, I talk about the land value increase of 315% since 2021. I will make one statement there. If you look at the report you got from the assessor, if you'll look on the front right-hand bottom page of that, if you'll read with me, the 24 and 25 assessed values for these properties are currently under appeal at the district court level. Hopefully, we'll have that fixed once we get this bought, and we can readjust that depending especially what happens today. We ask that you uphold the values here so that they can be joined with the other appeals at district court. Listen, the assessor is asking you as a board to set the 25-6 values, not because it's accurate, in my humble opinion, but to help them with their standing on that other case. That's garbage. I shouldn't even be standing here today if you're still appealing those in the court. Now, maybe they're not going to. We'll see what happens there. If we get a bot, we can fix all that. But to try to use this raise in an assessment of almost $2 million as an excuse to help you with a current ongoing district court case, that's foul play in my humble opinion. So I will make it clear. If you'll go with me on the last page, let's work at these together. One, the growth rate assumption of applied 10% plus increase is not accurate. It's 2.2 nationally falling, and if you look at all the competition that is now within a mile, within a quarter of a mile of our facilities, those numbers are not going to be a 10% increase. There's no way in hell they'll all go to the other units. If you look at their own language on the expense ratios, that should be a lower number, not the 39% that they're using. It should be 26.34, which helps lower that rate. If you use the cap rate that the Northwest average is on these facilities of 6.6, which I think is going to be higher now with the competition, that should drive the rate down. And again, my concern with using the values and as the reason to go to the court. I understand this is confusing, and quite frankly, this is past my pay grade. I'm sure you're going to ask me questions I won't know the answer to. But hopefully, we can find a path forward here that's more equitable. Hopefully, we can figure out how to get this storage unit bought and can work with Craig. He seems like a nice guy. I think there's a path forward that we can work together and find a solution. But I do ask that you move those values back to $24,600,000 between the two of them. The values that I'm asking for right under that, I think that's more in line with the market. And I get to that value by using the assumptions that they use and making them what they actually are. The negative 2%, added thing, by going back with the expense ratio going down, and by going with the cap rate with the net actually 6.6. I am not playing games. I'm not asking anything favors. I'm just asking you to use the numbers that everybody else will be using. With that, if there's any question, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
All right, any questions? Go ahead.
No.
Well, I have one. You said the expense ratio, you said the assessor is using a 39% expense ratio, and you're using a 26%. Wouldn't that increase the values if with a lower expense ratio?
Mr. Chairman, it's backwards from what you think. It's similar to what you think on the cap rate. The cap rate, a higher number is better, not a lower number. It's similar way of looking at it. Think about a cap rate, it's the same way, right? A 5 is a higher value than
Well,
a
I understand
6.
what cap rate is, but the expenses, that's just expenses, isn't it?
It is, and Craig could explain to you why the difference and why it's better to have that lower number.
Well, yeah, lower number gave you more income, wouldn't it? Am I wrong? Am I wrong there? I don't understand it.
Yes, Craig. I was studying on that last night, trying to understand it, and I'll just confuse you and myself.
Well, we don't want to do that.
I do know, though, that it's important as I looked at it, and I thought, okay, well, it was backwards. Because I thought the same thing you did. I thought, no, I want the higher number. The higher number is better for me. And I went back through it. And then I'm like, no. And then I had to actually ask AI, because I'm like, no, this is backwards. And it said the same thing. That number being at 26.3 makes a difference. It's not a huge difference, but it does make a difference.
Well, I didn't realize that the market rates were going down, because I have a little storage place where I store my campaign stuff on Franklin Road, and it's Star Local, I think is what they call it. And they bumped it from 50 to 67 bucks.
Mr.
Month.
Chairman, I would encourage you to come out and we'll go for a drive. And I will show you,
Might be a good idea.
4 of the newest, fanciest facilities that I couldn't afford to build.
Yeah.
And that one U-Haul one is immense. It's not up and running. The others are.
Well, okay,
But
well, there- at least-
what happens, I'm
It
assuming
was just
once
sold to
ours
this-
start going down, yours will go down too. They'll have to. 'Cause you're
This one was
somewhere
just sold, that was sold to another company, and they bumped the rates up. Okay, I don't have any more, any other questions? No, I have. Go ahead. Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Okay, Craig Church with Ada County Assessor's Office. Had a good discussion with Mr. Moyle earlier on the property. And I think we'll agree to disagree right now. More information may come down the road that may change our mind, but at this point in time, I'll just go through my presentations here. I think you're probably familiar with these properties. We've had them under appeal for the last several years. The properties are currently going to district court for the 2024 and 2025 assessment years.
Before you go on, I'd like,
Sure.
just a question there.
Sure.
They're under appeal. Did they go to the Board of Tax Appeals?
First year they did, and the second year for 2025, they agreed to fold them into so they were upheld at the 2025 BTA, and then 2024 BTA, excuse me. 2025, we agreed to just combine the cases and push them on as one at district court, so they were not actually heard at the BTA in 2025.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So kind of turning to page 2 or 3, actually, if we turn to the second packet, since we're hearing them both at the same time. So the packet ending in 002, if we go to the fourth page of that, that gives you a good outline of the total property for both parcels under appeal. Star 2 is the property on the left that's not highlighted in green. And then Star 1 is the property with 002. That property also encompasses a parcel ending in 670 highlighted on the lower part. That property wasn't under appeal at this point, but it's part of the economic unit. And then there's also some excess ground for surface RV parking on the property to the north, ending in 660. Again, that's not included in our income approach on the property. Just kind of looking at our income approach, so these properties were reappraised in 2023, and they were trended for this year. And when we're doing our trends, we do a very intense rent study on the property. You can see that the property is, so Star 2 has just enclosed parking, whereas Star 1 has, or enclosed storage, whereas Star 1 has enclosed units as well as covered parking, so covered RV and boat parking. So it's got both types of properties. They do not have any climate-controlled properties on, units on the property. You can see that for the enclosed units, the trended value rent on those is 82.5 cents per month. And then for the covered parking is 31.92 cents per month. If you turn to page 7, actually it's page 8 in the packet that we're looking at right now. If you turn to page 8 on that packet, you can see the results of our rent study. So for enclosed units, we saw market rent at $1.20 a square foot on those units. For covered parking is 49 cents per square foot per unit. That's prior to any concessions. Typically, a lot of places will give you a month off for concessions if you sign a long-term contract. So once accounting for concessions, the average rent for the enclosed units is $1.08 per square foot, still substantially higher than the assessed. And then the covered parking is 41.41 cents, again substantially higher than the assessed. So in that rent study that we did for 2026, if you go over to the right side of that thing, you can see the count, how many data points we looked at when we were getting these market rents. We looked at 669 rent comps. So we're not just picking 2 or 3 comps. We're looking at the entire market and seeing how that market's moving. And you can see from year to year, 2025 to 2026, all the way back to the reappraisal year of 2023, we've seen rents increase 15.8% since 2023 on the enclosed units. And covered parking has increased 33.23% over that time. So substantial increases on those properties, those property types. We've seen climate-controlled units, which the U-Haul property under construction that Mr. Moyle referenced on Chinden, that one's going to be climate-controlled, is my understanding. We've seen an enormous influx of new climate-controlled properties, and that segment has gone backwards in their rents. But again, for the 2 segments that are built on these 2 properties, the enclosed storage and the covered parking, rents have increased substantially since 2023, justifying our trends. So Mr. Moyle did mention, our own results looking at popular-sized units. So popular-sized units on page 9 of the packet that you're looking at. Sorry, it's a little confusing bouncing between the 2 packets. So if we look at page 9 on that, you can see the results of just the popular-sized units. So the popular-sized units did, in fact, go down on these properties. But overall, once you account for all the other different sizes, and there's probably over 100, probably 150 different sized units, once you account for all of those, the units did actually go up substantially. And you can see our results do mimic Storage Cafe, which is a local company that also tracks rents on popular sized units only. But you can see on the right-hand side of that page our Ada County results from our rent study and in comparison with Storage Cafe, and they're very similar for these popular sized units. But again, we're looking at the overall, all sized units, not just the popular sized units. So looking at the data, it tells two different stories depending on what you're looking at. So if we go to expenses on page 10, so unfortunately, I think Mr. Moyle might be confused in what he's talking about, a higher expense ratio. So you're talking about, potential of gross income, all the rents, or all the properties rented at market rent, subtract your vacancy and collection loss gives you your effective gross income after you add other income, if there's a little bit of other income for, locks or whatever. And then you subtract the operating expenses to get a net operating income. So the higher your operating expenses, the lower your net operating income, which means the lower indication of value. So we do consider percentage, but really what we're focused on is dollars per door, or dollars per leasable square foot, excuse me. So we're looking at the dollars per leasable square foot on these units. And just looking at the data that we've got from storage, self-storage expense guidebook, once we subtract the property taxes out of there, we're looking at expenses coming in at $3.49 a square foot, and you'll note that that's based on a substantially higher effective gross income. So as a percentage, yes, of that higher, those expenses as a percentage of that higher gross income lead to a smaller percentage. But when you look at, when you're adjusting it for our local market, where the rents are lower than national, when we're considering dollars per unit, it actually comes into a higher percentage point of that effective gross income. So we're looking at, if our rents are somewhere close to that, we're looking at 37% of effective gross once you adjust for our market. And then we added 2% on top of that for reserves for replacement for the real estate. So that's why we're using 39% of effective gross in our model. Again, it's well supported by the self-storage expense guidebook. And again, that's based on net rentable area rather than the gross square footage. Turning to page 11 just shows the trailing 3-year summary of the expenses, and it shows the effective gross income per square foot annually and monthly. You can see that highlighted in orange there, the effective gross income per square foot monthly, $1.14 and $1.02 are substantially higher than what we're looking at on the subject property. So again, that's why it's more appropriate to use the higher expense ratio, why we made that adjustment to 39% rather than the 25%. Regarding cap rates, agree with Mr. Moyle. There's some subjectivity. It's a range. Cap rates are a range. It's based on your appraiser judgment of how, the condition of the property, what you think it's, the condition of our age goes into it. Inspected the properties, both of these, a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago or so with the appellant's representative at that time, Greg Riddell. We inspected them all, and these properties, the Star properties, are outstanding properties. There's really very little deferred maintenance on those properties, primarily because they're newer. So you can see our support for our cap rates from last year and this year, looking at Class A, B, and C. We kind of see these properties there isn't really a true Class A storage property in Ada County. So you can see Class A in the guidebook. They're kind of saying they're a 5% cap rate. We don't really see that, so we've adjusted them more for like an A minus. So we're looking at a 5 3/4 on Star 2 and a 6% cap rate on Star 1 because it's older. So you can see the changes that we made for trending in the green on the bottom there. Class A properties, there was no change between the years. Class B, again, no change. Class C, which are, your Garden City, a lot of the other Republic storage properties actually were assessed based on a 7 cap rate. We increased the cap rate by a 1/4 point based on this data that we have here, which resulted in lower values on all the other Republic storage properties, I believe. So kind of Jumping over to some comments that Mr. Moyle made regarding the new construction, there is a tremendous amount of new construction in self-storage properties going on in Ada County, specifically out in that area. The two properties closest to the subject property are actually storage condominiums, so it's not really competing directly with Mr. Moyle, with the Republic storage properties. So people buy those and they'll store their RVs in there, but they buy them for just ridiculous amounts of money. Like they're paying $240, $230 a square foot for some of these condos. You can see, we're $55 a square foot on these. They're a completely different duck than the subject. But yeah, it will compete for some customers. There'll be fewer people wanting to rent, but people are buying and they're paying the $230 to $250 or $240. I mean. They were paying $250 a year ago. They were asking that, but so those ones are a little different duck. The ones that are in the immediate area, Linden, yeah, there are some new projects that will compete with Mr. Moyle's property. The U-Haul property is going to have a substantial component of climate-controlled units. They've built two other ones in kind of South Meridian. The climate controlled won't compete with them, but all their other stuff will. Their covered parking and their enclosed units will compete with them. The other property that came online just at the end of December, so there's those two that are actually under construction and completed that will compete with them. But again, looking at our rent study, we'll do another rent study again next year. If we see rents starting to drop because of that, we'll lower our assessed rents. So we'll follow the market wherever our rent study tells us to go, along with the cap rates and the expenses. Yeah, again, my recommendation would be push these on to BTA or combine them in with district court. And then we may get some new information down the road. Maybe we'll get some sales on some of the Republic properties that might point us in another direction. But based on all the information we've received so far, we don't see anything that points for a reduction at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay, well, you're suggesting that to uphold your values, would that have any impact in their pending lawsuit?
No, it won't have any impact on the lawsuit. We actually haven't heard from the appellants. So Republic Storage is owned by a gentleman named Dick Phillips, and he passed away last year. So the properties are going through, I assume the estate, maybe probate. I don't have any actually direct link, but we haven't heard anything from their attorney, Andrea Rochult, who I believe was on retainer for Mr. Phillips. She had filed the previous 2 years, but we haven't heard anything new, no status updates there to be able to talk about.
So this is all of the Mr. Phillips' praise that's on appeal, or just these two?
This year, just these two, which were
No, I mean in
operated.
district court.
At district court, they all were. There
All
were 12 in 2024 and 14 in 2025. And then that were appealed at district court. And then this year, we just have these two that I believe Mr. Phillips maybe operated the property, and Mr. Moyle, he can correct me on the ownership of it, but I think he was more of a passive owner in the past, maybe. But I don't want to speculate.
Okay, I just wanted to make understand that, because Mr. Moyle suggested that if we were to uphold your values, that it would strengthen your case in court. I don't understand why, but.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't strengthen our case at all. It would just, a bigger package to try and negotiate on if there are any negotiations to be had or.
Because the
or
court
rule
case involves about 14 or 15 properties, you say?
on. Right, 12 for 1 year and 14 for the next year, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead. You have any questions?
I guess the rate of the expense thing, that whole question. So I think you partially addressed that, but go over that again in terms of the expense discrepancy in terms of the positions of the Mr.
I still don't
Miles.
understand why a higher expense gives you a higher income.
Sure, and so, yeah, the way we calculated it doesn't. There might be some confusion in some of the online literature maybe regarding hotels, and and how they book their accounting for those. But for traditional appraisal, the way everybody does it, for normal properties, it's your net operating income minus your vacancy and collection loss, or, sorry, your potential gross income minus your vacancy and collection loss gives you your effective gross income. Then from there, we subtract routine operating expenses to provide our net operating income. So the higher the net operating income, the higher the value on the property. The lower the net operating income, the lower the value on the property. So you would want the highest expense ratio you could have, so you'd have the smallest NOI to get the smallest value if you're appealing a property for property taxes.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. I still am confused about that expense thing.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess that's your biggest sticking point then, is that expense ratio.
So our expense ratio is, yeah, it's well supported in the market, based on industry publications. And, we're looking at these properties not on the actuals, we're looking at them based on market factors, so market rents, market expenses, market vacancy and collection loss, market cap rates. It'd be interesting to look at the appellant's actual income and expenses, and kind of the rent roll to see where they are in relation to the market. We've requested that information over the last 3 years, and their attorneys so far have not produced it, but we haven't gone through discovery yet at district court level, so.
You don't have the actual market rate.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay. Anything you want to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Craig makes my point. The national average is 6.6. He says it probably should be higher. He makes my point that they're going down in Ada County. Said they're going down. They're going down. And ours is going to get worse. He is correct. Some of them are where they sell the condos, but they do both. They also rent. So they sell and rent at the same time in those two facilities, especially the one on North 16. And the new one that's opened up there, we've seen a dramatic increase in losses of, or dramatic, our occupancy rate is going down because they're going somewhere else. And you heard him say, countywide, the rates are going down. National studies, the rates are going down. Their own book says it should be 26, not 36, 26. So, and that adjusts the value. It makes the value of the property lower. And to think that, to say that you are in court on the appeals right now for last year, and so we're just going to raise them again, even though that hasn't decided. If you don't think that has an effect, Commissioner Beck, I guarantee you the judge is looking at that thinking it's going to have an effect. I think it ought to be at least where it was last year till the court settled, not pounding on and adding more, especially when we realize that the other facilities have all gone down in value. According to Craig, they've lowered the values on those. So at the bare minimum, it should be at least what it was last year till the courts decide what's going on. But again, you're looking at a 10% trend increase. Not going to happen. Come out there. I'll show you all the stuff going on. It's a down. You're looking at an expense ratio of 39. Should be lower, which lowers the value of the facility. You're looking at a court ruling right now that even in the front of this, read that statement right there, fires me up. Read it.
I quoted
You're
it.
using it. You're using it against me. They're raising the values to use it against us there. Listen, and I'm hoping that in the next short period of time, we can get this, we have half, Dick had half, we can get that other half purchased. We'll then know what the real value is. Other people are looking at this nationally. I can tell you right now that the numbers you have on these are substantially higher than what they're saying they're worth. And so hopefully we can at least hold the line where it was last year till we see what happens in the courts.
So you're at a 50-50 ownership? I advise my kids to not ever go into a 50-50 ownership.
And that worked fine when Dick was alive,
Yeah.
but now it's a mess. And that's why, and I do appreciate Craig reached out. We were trying to find a path, but their path is still going to raise the value substantially. Their own numbers say they should go down. Their own numbers say that the expense ratio is wrong. Their own numbers say that the trending at 10% is wrong. Their own numbers say that they're going down. They haven't taken into effect all the added facilities there. And everybody knows that cap rate's higher than that on those older facilities. They're nice facilities. He is right. We do a good job of keeping them up. They're in my backyard. I want them to look nice. But that doesn't mean that they're worth $1 bazillion more than the one next to it that's not taken care of. They are in good shape, and we try to keep them there. But at the very minimum, wait till the court gets done. Don't use these values, this thing today, to try to pile in on me, because I don't even know how that's going to work with that court thing, because this may be sold and that court thing goes away anyways. So hopefully you will put them back where they were till we see what happens. And with that, appreciate your time. And they're wrong on everything in here that I showed you came from their stuff.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, here we are. Any other questions to either the applicant or to the assessor's office? Nope, all right. Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
Just another question to the assessor's office.
That's what I asked you.
Well, I was contemplating.
Okay.
So what are the pros and cons of putting this, keeping it the way you're assessing it, and then it would be folded into a court case versus going down to the maintaining status quo from year to year, year over year?
Sure. So maintaining status quo with last year would put these properties at an advantage to all the other Class A and B properties that increased approximately 6 to 7%. So part of what I guess I didn't make clear in the presentation. So we segregate these properties into A, B, and C market grade qualities, and D for some of the really bad ones. So the only properties that went down were the Class C and D properties in value. Those were the ones that went down approximately 2% because of the cap rate on that segment of the market increased. The Class A and B properties, which both of these are, the cap rates did not change, and we increased our PGI trend from 3% to 10% this year, resulting in approximately one went up 6.8%, the other went up 6.54% from last year. So these guys would be, by adjusting the value down, they would have an advantage over all the other A and B properties and would be below what we think market value on the property truly is. There's no advantage I can see whatsoever of having these go on to district court for us, from our perspective. It doesn't, having two more go, it's just more work for us, more stuff to fight, which, as you can see this year, we're not trying to do that. But did that fully answer your question?
Well, I guess you got to my next point was, we're the Board of Equalization, and so that was my real question. Ours is equity in the county on similar properties. So that was my real question in terms of the court case, et cetera, because we are required to equalize the assessments based on or that's what you're required to do, and we're supposed to sustain or change based on the presentation to us. So I guess that's where I am in terms of equalization, our responsibility, that then actually, if there's a disagreement on our decision, it can go to the Board of Tax Appeals and to court, which sometimes does, with not just in this situation, but other situations as well.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, again, statute is very clear on what our jobs actually are, and that is to assess all properties in the county as of January 1 of each year. Each year in the property tax system stands on its own. So every property in this class of property, in this use type, have all been assessed utilizing the data that has been thoroughly collected from calendar year 2025 for a January 1, 2026 assessment. Any construction that takes place after that lien date, that date of appraisal of us, is immaterial for this year's assessment. That's great information for 1/1/27. Not for 1/1/26. We're looking at data prior to the lien date. That's what's been equitably utilized for all the assessments of every property within this type of property countywide. Additionally, As you can see on pages 7 and 8 of the 2 packets that Craig provided, he went through a rent roll of hundreds and hundreds of like properties to come up with these rates here locally in this market. Mr. Speaker provided data from national publications. That is immaterial to our local market. Craig did an excellent job of creating all of these rates and calculations based on local market data, and I think that is superior to anything that we would find published on a national scale.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure, go
You
ahead.
look at their own data, that is not correct. They're estimating what we're going to make on income, and they're raising that rate to 10%, one. Two, everything in here, if you take the time to go through their study that they gave you, is where I got it. I got it from their stuff. They use those national trends. They use that, and the stuff with the equalization rate, that comes from their own book that they say it should be, and it says it should be a different number. They also lowered everybody else's rates around but ours. That's a problem. They even talked about that. Those other rates of Republic storage came down. Some of them were built at the same time, I believe, could be wrong. My point being is, it's almost like they're picking on one me, and I'm not happy with it. And I think that the reason they're doing it is because of that court case. If you're a judge and the Board of Equalization, and you've sent that to the district court, and you guys just upped it again, he's gonna say, the values aren't high enough. They're still sending them higher. He's not going to even look at it in a fair manner. He's already going to have an opinion made. 10% trend is crap. The cap rate is crap. It's the same with their, it's the same with the expense ratio. Come on, just use what they use to get the number and be fair with me, with everybody else that has the storage units, and they're not. These numbers are different than others, and it's not fair. And to say somehow that it's okay for this storage unit to go up and that not when they're the same, and to say that, well, those construction on those other facilities was done in January. Eagle was done. Stories on Chinden was done. They're filling up today. They were done. And looking, if you're trending and using the income tax and the income basis, you have to look ahead. And looking ahead, those numbers all go down. So all I'm saying is, leave it where it is till we get done and see what happens in court. Then you can come back and we can play this game again next year.
Assuming you own them.
Yeah. If it was done with that, I would know how to.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members, when a death happens like this, it's a big deal, right?
Sure.
These aren't like local guys that are going and assessing. These are others. And knowing what they're going to come in and say that facility's worth gives me a really good idea of what it needs to be in here. And that's one of the reasons I felt I really needed to appeal this, because if that value comes in where I think it's going to come in, and they can prove it with all these national trends that we're supposed to be using here based on the value on January 1, then you shouldn't be raising it. And if it's in district court, you should be raising it anyways. Let it play out, and then you can decide. Hammer me next year if the district court says you're right. But in the meantime, we're trying to push these up while everybody else's goes down. Makes no sense.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that true, what he just said? Some of them are going down and some of them aren't in terms of because what you just described was not the case.
Correct. So the competing properties that are classified as Class A and B all increased, whereas the Class C properties, which are the other Republic storage properties, are all Class C properties. Those all, because of the cap rate shift, where the cap rate on that market segment increased to 7%, that lowered the actual value on them. But the rest of the model stayed the same as far as what rents are, what expense ratios are, and such.
And the Class A's are the storage condos, but they also have rentals?
No, sir. Storage condos are dealt with in a completely different market class. Those are valued based on primarily giving sales comparison approach primary consideration there.
So what is a Class A?
So a Class A is, you're looking at it, it's new construction, that's in good condition, good positions. So it's an appraiser judgment type of thing. So we look at primarily age as one of the biggest factors, and as long as there's no major deferred maintenance on it, we're considering it an A for our market, B for our market, C when you get into some of the real old ones that have a lot of deferred maintenance, holes in them where people have backed into them, things like that.
Any other questions? Okay, well, what's the pleasure of the board? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it's a interesting case with the ongoing district court litigation. I think both sides have made a compelling argument. I can't. I'm thinking it might be appropriate to kind of split the baby and meet somewhere in the middle, and that would probably be the last year's assessment value, which is more than what the appellant is asking for, and less what the county is asking for. And then eventually the district court would sort it all out, maybe even the Supreme Court, but I could see making a motion to freeze the value at last year's assessment.
Is that your motion?
I'll make that as a motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? Or did you have an alternative? Go ahead.
And I don't have an alternative. I guess my concern is the equalization of the values. But if this is a temporary thing, and I guess in sorting this out, if this happens, whatever we do is still negotiable until it's appealed to the Board of Tax Appeals, or is there still room to make an agreement before it goes to Board of Tax Appeals,
So there is.
regardless of what we do?
Yeah, there is room. If you adjust a value, I think we would have to counter appeal something like that to be able to increase a value at BTA. So the assessor's office, or I guess the Board of Equalization, I think, would actually have to appeal. I don't know if I'm right on that. It would have to appeal to BTA. The assessor's office would? Okay. Would have to appeal it to get the value up. Otherwise, you could never go back up without an appeal from our office. So I don't know if does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, the procedure was my question, and that was it.
All right. Well, we have one motion. Do we have another one?
Well, I guess for consistency, I understand the presentation, but these values are still in a state of flux, as the owner mentioned. So they're still in negotiations in terms of the price. So we still don't actually know some of the facts yet. So that's why I was asking the question procedurally. If some of those facts become known when it goes to the Board of Tax Appeals, they could be relevant, correct?
They could be relevant, but we couldn't go back up if it sold for more than assessed. If it sells for less than assessed and everything looks like it's a clear arm's length transaction, we would run to to a lower sales value. We don't get a commission or anything that way. So we're looking for the value, what it would sell for. So if it turns out it sells for less than assessed, we wouldn't have a problem adjusting to that at the BTA level or at district court level.
So I'm inclined to support the assessor's position, because that still gives the appellant the opportunity, both at the Board of Tax Appeals, as well as if there are relevant facts that change, it would still give them the opportunity to do what would be needed to adjust it appropriately.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you do it that way, then I'm stuck for a year. If to tell you an idea of where the number is that we're looking at on the sale, it's pretty close to that 24 million. And some of these numbers you're seeing in this came from them. So they see it the same way that I see it as I presented you. If you do what Commissioner Davison has responded, you're meeting exactly in the middle. I'm losing, I want lower, they want higher, you're hitting me in the middle. And I guarantee you, when that sale goes through, I can show them what happens. But a year from now, you can hammer me again. And if it's in district court, you're gonna be looking at a year from now anyways. So you're better off going back to split the baby than you are doing what you're saying, say, go with the assessor, because then I'm on the screwed end of things. And again, you're sending a message to the district court, I'm done. We might as well just pull it, we'll lose. Because you're telling them, you still think it should be higher than what they're appealing in 24 and 25. You make it worse. Nowhere else would you do that. Think about your little garbage problem you have, and if I did something similar to that. It is the same. It puts you in a box. You're better off meeting in the middle and then letting us figure out what happens once it gets sold. But I can assure you the price is not, it's lower than what we ask you to go to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You were going to make a comment first.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'll second the motion.
Second, Davidson's motion. Okay, so your motion was to revert to the 25 assessed valuation, is that it? Okay. You're gonna have to help me here, then what am I gonna put down here? Based on his motion?
Me?
Yeah.
So based on his motion, the 2025 land value would be 3,889,000.
Wait a minute, which?
Oh, sorry, parcel ending in 002. Do you want to do that one first?
Yeah, we'll do the parcel number and ending in 002, right?
Okay.
So you leave the land value the same,
Land value the same at 3,889,000,
and the improvement would be?
8,605,100 for a total of 12,494,100.
Okay, and the other one?
Okay, the parcel ending in 330, we leave the land value the same at 3,484,800 and adjust the improvement to 9,563,000 for a total of 13,047,800.
Okay, you've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it's fun. You're welcome to come in every day if you'd like. Okay, now we got. All right. We've got those done. The next one up will be 15787000012.
Didn't we?
Or did we do that one?
did both of those.
we on-
Okay, we did. All right. So now we're on, which one?
Number 6, I think.
Number 6, quail. No, we got to do them one at a time, I believe.
We did those other two together. But
Okay. Quail. Well, it's just quail and then it's magnolia. What's quail?
Magnolia, Park Lane, and
Do Magnolia together.
Okay.
okay, we can just do them one at a time. I'll start then.
Is it quail now?
Quail Park.
Yeah, Quail Park. All right, that would be 900 on the parcel number, the last three, 900.
I move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting at the Board of Equalization, uphold the assessor's evaluation on parcel number R8220900900 and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, that's quail. So we'll do Magnolia now. That would be, last three is 052.
Want to do them separately? I move to approve, I move that the Board of County Commissioners sitting as the Board of Equalization uphold the assessor's valuation of parcel number S0628336052 and authorize the chair to sign the appropriate documents on behalf of the board.
Again, just for the record, the appellant indicated we could pursue this without him being present, so I'll second that motion.
Okay, you've heard the motion. That would be to uphold the assessor value on parcel number S068228336052.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, now, what we have left is 101-132-5762. That would be Park Lane, correct?
We didn't do the second.
We didn't do second Magnolia.
Magnolia.
I don't have the second Magnolia on here.
Number 8 on the agenda.
Well, I can see that, but I just don't have the package yet.
Okay. I don't know if they give us the packet.
Oh, I think
I don't have that packet.
that's right, you have to have that to sign it.
Yeah, I've got the,
80.
that it?
8-0.
Yeah, that's Magnolia.
Yeah, the second Magnolia, yeah.
All right. All right. I'll accept, did we get a motion on that one?
Not yet.
Go ahead then.
I move that the Board of Commissioners sitting as the Board of Equalization uphold the assessor's valuation on parcel S0628336480 and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we have Park Lane Apartments. That would be 10113255762. Okay,
I move to, that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, uphold the assessor's evaluation on parcel number S10112, or 11325762, and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. I believe that does it for today, does it not? Except for the other motions we need to make. All right, so I'll accept a motion on the withdrawn changes, withdrawn no changes, changes no hearing, no changes no hearing, BOE adjustments. Anything else? That's it. I'll accept the motion.
I'll move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, approve the assessor's modifications on the parcels listed under withdrawn changes and changes, no hearing. Uphold the valuations on the parcels listed under withdrawn, no changes, and no changes, no hearing, and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
I second the motion.
Can we get them all, Matt? Or do we need add BOE adjustments?
Separate one.
Oh, okay. All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next motion.
So we do have some adjustments?
Yep,
Okay.
84.
I'll move that the Board of Commissioners, sitting as the Board of Equalization, approve the BOE adjustments as listed on the agenda and authorize the chair to sign the documents on behalf of the board.
I second the motion.
Hey, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else we need for this portion of our hearing? That does it for today, I believe. We are adjourned till Thursday, is that right? What's the time on that one? Thursday at 1 PM. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.